Hey guys, happy Halloween. It is officially October 31st, which to me is a very special day. It's my favorite day of the year. I love the entire freaking month of October. To me, that's like Halloween the whole month long, maybe even a little before that, actually. Um, and today I am in different circumstances. As you can see, we're visiting my husband's uncle right now in Colorado. So I'm down in his basement teaching for you guys today. So we've got a different environment behind me. Um, and today, in honor of Halloween, I thought it would be a great time. We're doing a guided meditation for our Reiki Restorative. So as you can see, I don't have any props, but we're going to go ahead and cue you to utilize whatever props you need. And you're going to be in that prolonged posture for a very long time. So make sure you have whatever props you need and that you engage in the position that's the most comfortable and safe for you, right? So if you pick a Reiki restorative posture to engage in, then make sure it's something you can be in comfortably for quite some time. Otherwise, we'll have you engage in that Shavasana posture, fully supported in whatever way feels best to you. You know, whether you put pillows under your knees, you have pillows under your arms or blankets or lower spine or the middle of the heart or whatever it is, and make sure that you have the blankets necessary to cocoon yourself or wrap yourself up, making yourself feeling particular cozy and safe and comfortable today while we engage on this guided meditation. And what we're talking about today in honor of Halloween is our dark side, right? The shadow self. A lot of times people hear that and they immediately think of negativity, right? The darkness is negative, it's bad. Well, the darkness is where all things are born, all things come from the darkness. Everything was created in the darkness, in the void. It's not something to be afraid of. It's actually an incredibly powerful place where magical things happen. And if we see it as such and we learn to shift our mindset from believing that it's this negative thing into a more positive thing, then we can learn to love and embrace ourselves in a more holistic way, right? Does your dark side scare you? Or does it entice you? Or do you even know what your dark side is? Do you even know what that place looks like? Um, that dark side is a place in the shadows of our being where we usually stuff all the things that we don't want to look at because society has told us to perceive them as being ugly or bad or wrong or ill-fitting, when truly those can sometimes be the qualities of our being that are the most special, the unique, the most profound aspects of our being that hold the very most power. It's also that place that we tend to hide the denied or repressed aspects of our being and experiences that we have. The term shadow was first used by the psychologist Carl Jung to describe I can't talk, y'all. To describe the denied or repressed aspects of the self. And they talked about how it happens a lot as we're children or adolescents that this grooming begins, this, ideation that there are parts of you that are bad or not okay. Children and adolescents begin to hide away parts of themselves when they're told, often wrongly, that these aspects are bad or unacceptable. And then they carry their secret stuff into adulthood, never consciously looking into it. Nevertheless, these hidden aspects still shape their lives. And the repression, and the thing that we don't understand about this stuff most of the time is these are powerful aspects of our being. Powerful aspects of our being that are meant to be massively transformative in our experience. And when you spend so much time and energy repressing all of this stuff, all of this power, all of these parts of your being, you're wasting so much of your life force energy repressing the parts of you that are meant to be shown and experienced and felt into. You're constantly exhausting yourself by trying to force these parts of your being into the corners, into the shadows, where nobody else can see or experience them. And it's such a freaking shame. And I know it's scary because there's parts of ourselves that we're afraid of. We're afraid of the power of our own being. We're afraid of the powerful transformation that can occur within that space. There's fear in becoming our most fulfilled, fully expressive manifestation of our being, because who will I become? And I can tell you firsthand, every time I've ever had that fear of like, oh my God, people are definitely going to think I've lost it this time. They're definitely going to think I'm more psycho than they've ever thought I was, more witchy, more weird, more horrible, more bad. Every time I get to that point, and who am I going to be? Am I even going to recognize myself anymore? Every time I come to that edge of that place, I'm already ready for it. I'm already ready for it. My soul is already ready for that expansiveness to occur, that consciousness to grow and to accept and hold space for more. And as I grow, I'm still grounded. I'm still connected to who and what I am. I never become unrelatable or something that I have to try to hide from other people, because it is this incredible, powerful part of my being, and I'm already accepting and loving of those parts of myself. And the more that I love and accept those parts of myself, the more people feel that, and they are ready for it too, right? Those parts that are ready in their own parts of their own vibrational frequency, that are ready to feel into that, they warmly accept that. So we don't have to be afraid at the prospects of revealing our real self. We don't have to feel shame, guilt, or embarrassment over who and what we are. And it can be so terrifying when we first start doing that shadow work. But when we do it in a really healthy way, we release our personal and creative power so that we have the chance to become all that we are, fully embracing the truth of our being, fully accepting the wholeness of ourselves. So today we're going to be doing a meditation that's going to strengthen and cultivate self-love, increasing the self-esteem, and reconnecting to that fundamental aspects of our being. It's really important that we learn how to do this, how we learn how to not feel fear and shame and embarrassment and humiliation over who and what we are, to not let those feelings stop us from expressing the fullness of our being. So it's important that we always create a safe space for the shadow work, going gently, bit by bit, being playful and curious, loving and compassionate. If you get a little bit overwhelmed doing your shadow work, you just take a step back. You take a little step back and realize that it's okay. And it's important to pay attention to our triggers. Our triggers are a huge component to the unhealed aspects of our being and the experiences that we have that we look at as bad and horrible and negative. And I'm not saying that they're not. Things that happen in our lives sometimes are monstrous. The things that happen in our lives sometimes can be very traumatic and full of pain and grief and sadness. This is the truth, right? However, that doesn't take away from the fullness of who and what you are. Those experiences never fundamentally change the core of your being. If you are divine, if you are God, if you are source, those aspects of your being can never change. They're unchangeable. They're never changing. You are always perfect. You are always whole. You are always complete. So we have to learn to procure the safe space within so that we can do those kinds of shadow works in a very safe and gentle and kind and compassionate way. Honoring what happened, noting that these experiences took place, but also recognizing that these things can never take away from my perfection. They can never take away from my wholeness. They will never make me less than my fullest expression, that I am always in perfection, that I'm always God, source, divine, great spirit energy, no matter what. And I can look at the horror, and I can look at the ugly, and I can look at all of these things and know that I am still my fullest expression of being. I can do the work of healing my heart and my mind and my body and know that I'm still complete and I'm still whole. So we are going to go ahead and start collecting our things, getting all your stuff together, coming into that really beautiful, comfortable, restorative posture. Coming into those easy, restorative postures or that comfortable corpse pose or shavasana pose with all of those extra things that you need to feel really comfortable and safe. When you're a child and adolescent, you innocently constructed the shadow as a means of self-protection and self-care. But whatever you have constructed can be deconstructed. As you recognize this truth, the shadow gradually loses its fearsome quality. In fact, getting to know your shadow may become a deeply fulfilling adventure where you learn to love, accept yourself for the fullness of your being and not aspects that you think earn your goodness or make you appear a certain way to the people around you. Wholeness, personal power, unbounded creative energy, these are the gifts of shadow work, and you deserve to live wholeheartedly from your full and genuine self. So do not let society dictate to you what's good and what's bad and what's wrong and what's right. There is no good or bad or wrong or right. There only is the truth, right? There only is what is. So remove the stories, remove the judgments, remove the expectations, release yourself from the bondage of the negative associations to the shadow self and learn to embrace and accept and love yourself exactly as you are each and every moment and each and every day. One of my favorite things when people come to see me for holistic work, they'll say sometimes to me things like, "You won't even want to see me. I'm in such a bad mood or I'm in such a bad state. I'm not happy. Things are not great for me right now. I don't even know that you're going to want to share space with me. Do you even feel comfortable working with me?" And one of the things that I love to do is to reassure them that I am a safe space for them to be exactly as they are and to not feel the need to have to change it for me, to not have to try to make me feel comfortable or to pretend to be something they're not, all so that they can feel comfortable in my space. I love them wholeheartedly, irregardless of the state of their being, because I can see them beyond the feelings, beyond the emotion, beyond the pain or the trauma. I see the truth of who and what they are, and I never want them to fake it for me. I never want them to feel like they can't be truthful to exactly where they are in each and every moment, to meet themselves in that space with a loving compassion and not shame and guilt. It's one of the greatest gifts that we can not only give to others, but to give to ourselves, to see ourselves, truly see and love and accept ourselves exactly as we are. So go ahead and start to sink into your breath and your restorative. or corpse pose posture. One of the most important responsibilities that we hold is to love ourselves unconditionally, without any need for doing or achieving or having, but simply to uphold the truth of our worthiness, to recognize the perfection that we are, and to remind ourselves of this essence of the truth of ourselves as divine beings. In this meditation, we will look at the inner voice that tells us lies of untruth that separates us from this ability to love ourselves completely and unconditionally. Then we find and create affirmations to help replace this negative self-talk with talk that is supportive, compassionate, and kind. So settle into your comfortable posture, whether you're in your corpse pose, final shavasana, or your favorite restorative posture, or in another position of your choosing. Really taking the time to set up the comfort and support for yourself, treating even this as an act of self-love. And when you have found that comfort, locate your breath. Witness the gentle inflow and outflow of breath and of pranic energy. Prana being the life force energy that provides sustenance and support. Noticing how automatic and ever-present the breath is. The breath itself being a sign of our inherent worthiness. There is nothing we need to do, be, or have in order for this breath and this prana to support us. We are worthy without even trying. Allow this breath to bring you deeply into the present moment. Settle in, calming your nervous system and bringing your mind and your body into balance. I invite you to consider that you are practicing self-love even now, simply by showing up for yourself and choosing to listen to this beautiful meditation in these restorative postures. In practicing self-love, much of what we need to do is to mine all of the ways that we separate ourselves from love. All of the ways that we keep ourselves from the essential truth of our worthiness. One of the main ways that we separate ourselves from truth is by the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we allow in and that we then share or believe. These stories are created over our lives based on the experiences or the opinions of others, or our own experience or opinions. And when we internalize these stories, we live them out. We give them energy and meaning. And this, in turn, is what causes us to be separated from truth. The first step in uncovering these stories and choosing a different narrative that is more supportive and in alignment with truth is awareness, is becoming conscious of the untruths, the stories that we tell ourselves that are not in alignment with truth, with our essence, with who we are at our core, the I am. I invite you to consider some of the ways that you speak to yourself in negative or lacking ways. The beliefs that you hold about yourself that separate you from the truth of your divine perfection. Let's look at a few areas of your life. With each area, consider, what is it that I dislike about myself? This can also be thought of as, what is lacking in me? Where am I needing improvement? So consider this question as it relates to your body. What about your body do you dislike? What do you feel is lacking? Now let's look at the area of the mind. What do you dislike about your mind? What do you feel is lacking here and now? Your history, the accumulation of your personal experience. What do you dislike about this and what do you feel is lacking? And now your relationships and your connections with others. What do you dislike about yourself as it relates to relationships? And what do you feel is lacking? Lastly, your achievements. What about your achievements do you dislike? What in you is lacking as it relates to your achievements? As you can see, your inner critic is strong. It is easy to find fault with ourselves and to find ways that we feel we need to be improved in ways that we are lacking. If we wish to truly embrace self-love, to love ourselves without condition, we must choose self-talk that is kind and supportive, meant in the direction of truth. And so we will explore a way to rewrite this narrative, to change the inner critic by engaging in positive self-talk as it relates to the areas that we explored. Now we will look at each of these areas and ask the question, if I love myself completely, how would I change the belief? How could I change the voice of the inner critic to be more supportive, more loving, and more kind? And the key here is to really put yourself in the mindset of, if I loved myself completely. It's a way of stepping out of whatever belief it is that you hold, choosing to look at it from a different angle, from the angle of love. So let's begin with the body. Again, looking at your beliefs around your body. Perhaps remembering the feelings of lack that you were able to bring up. And then asking the question, if I loved myself completely, how would I change this belief? Or simply, what would I believe instead? And now let's look at the mind. If I loved myself completely, what would I believe about my mind? Next, your history and collection of experiences. If I loved myself completely, how would I change the beliefs of negative self-talk or the inner critic? What would I believe instead? Now let's look at relationships, your connections with others. If I loved myself completely, what would I believe? How would I change the inner critic as it relates to relationships? Achievements. If I loved myself completely, what would I believe about my achievements? Now that we have practiced this mindset shift of really looking at ourselves through the lens of love, perhaps you see the ways that you could speak to yourself more kindly. If you are able to really see yourself through this lens of love, then you know that you already have it within you to shift the story, to change that inner critic and to speak words of love and support to yourself. So when your inner critic begins to speak words of untruth to you, I invite you to take this perspective of self-love, starting with a question. If I love myself completely, what would I believe about myself? If I love myself completely, what would I believe about this experience? What would I say to myself? How would I act? What choices would I make? Every time that we replace the inner critic with positive self-talk, we effectively repattern belief, and this changes our mind, our body, and the way that we experience the material world. Now place your hands on your heart. Feel your life-giving breath expanding in your chest. Notice how every breath is a gift. One that requires no payment. You are worthy. There is nothing that you need to do, to be, or to have in order to be worthy. Self-love is an honoring of the divine being that you are. It is recognizing your perfection and practicing compassion with yourself, even in times of fear, of lack, and seeming failure. It is imperative that we get back to the essential truth of our inherent worthiness and let's go of the negative self-talk that creates suffering and separates us from our divine expression. Breathe in. Feel your lungs easily expanding. And breathe out very slowly. Breathe in. Focus on the feeling of the air as it enters into your body. Exhale. Take note of how it feels to release, to let go. Feel how your heart rate is at a nice resting rhythm. Notice how much more relaxed you are now than when you first began this meditation. You're ready to spread your love to everything around you because you love yourself first. And by turning that energy inward, you allow your being, that radiant, energetic body, to magnify that energy of love and project it outward from your being in all directions, as far as it chooses to go. Really slow and gentle. Start coming back to this room, to this safe space on your mat. First, deepening the breath, and then wiggling the fingers and toes. Wrapping your hands around your wrists or your feet around your ankles. Taking any gentle stretches necessary, gentle cat stretches, full body stretches. Pressing any props out of the way that you might need so that we can complete our practice today. Pulling the knees into the chest and giving yourself a nice tight squeeze, remembering who you are, the truth of your being. And then rocking and rolling forward and backwards multiple times, many times, until you draw yourself upright into a comfortable seated position. So we can complete our practice today with 3 long Sat Nams. Sat Nam, I am truth. Truth is my name. Truth is my identity. Taking those hands into prayer pose. Inhale nice and deep. Exhale fully and completely. And inhale to begin. Sat Nam. Sat Satnam. Namaste. Satnam, I am truth. Truth is my name. Namaste. I honor that unique expression of truth that only you could manifest without the desire to change it. Thank you so much for joining me today, you guys. I hope you guys have an awesome Halloween. Enjoy yourselves. Do something so fun today. And I will look forward to seeing you guys next week. So until then.